Hi everybody, I'm back to continue with the art journal flip throughs, and today we're getting started on volume 3. So this volume was created between February and July of 2021. Fairly short period of time to finish an art journal with 16 spreads, but it was back in the lockdown and you know, there was time for sure. And then also I had just started on art journaling the year before, and I was really excited about it. I still am. So here we are, volume 3. And as usual, or as I've done in the past, we're going to go through 4 spreads at a time. So here's the inside cover. And a spread that I really like for 2 reasons. One is the color scheme, and the other is the mice. The colors, the whole thing, or the color scheme, was really inspired by this particular clipping from, it must have been a magazine. I don't know what magazine it was, but it just caught my attention. And I went ahead and cut it out and decided to proceed with an art journal spread starting from this. And I do not know what this says or what it means, but I like the text as well as the colors. So after I'd selected this one to begin with, I went through my stash of clippings and also probably some other magazines that I hadn't looked through yet, and came up with these other images and started collaging from there and adding paint. I love this pink and fading in, or blending into this peach. And I don't know exactly when in the process I came up with the idea of the mice, but I knew, anyway, I can't explain that. But I wanted to make, for a while now, I've wanted to make a pocket in either the front or the back of the journal to keep notes in. So here we go. There's one here, and I can put probably quite a bit in here, but I don't have much in it now. So the pocket, I just drew the outline of it on a separate piece of paper, drew the mouse, drew this other mouse, sprayed them with fixative, cut it out. And then for this one, for the pocket, I went ahead and did some collage on the non-mouse part and some paint, obviously, as well. And then the one thing that I really am excited to point out to you is this image transfer. So the fun thing about image transfer is that if you have an image on a white background, when you transfer the image, the white is not going to transfer because there is no ink there to transfer. It is just the paper. So you're only going to be transferring the ink that's on the paper, so you'll transfer the image itself, but all around it, what was white in your image is going to be transparent. You're going to be able to see the work that you did underneath. So I really like that technique. I remember when I began to rub the back of the transfer away, I was disappointed because of these splotches. But in the end, I like them, and there's this little bit of stamping with bubble wrap that kind of repeats the uneven design of this stuff. So really like the color scheme. And also I wanted to point out that this bit over here, this was, I don't know, a cabinet or a bookcase or something, and then I put a different piece of collage over the center of it because I really like this frame. And then we have this flower that repeats the flower image over here, and I like it when an image goes off the edge of the page. Now there's a tool that I used quite a bit in this piece, although sadly you probably can't see it because it was a glitter pen that you can see when the light shines on it in just the right way, and I don't think that's happening here. But I wanted to point this pen out to you. It's a Uniball Signo glitter pen. I'm sorry, what does it say? I think it says sparkling. It's UM120SP sparkling. And I just love these pens. The glitter is very fine. And it's just fun to do. It adds an interesting dimension to put something on that you can't always see. So that's it for spread number 1. Just checking that I'm in the frame here. So, oh, I didn't mention stewarding. So I found this word in a clipping somewhere, stewarding, and I thought, okay, this is good. This is expressing what these mice are doing. They're stewarding this whole journal with the notes and so on. Okay, so on to the second one. And this one, this journal, when I looked through it earlier to prepare myself to talk about it, I really like so many of the spreads in this one, and this is no exception. And I remember that the inspiration for this one was this image from a magazine of, I think what must be a wooden bowl with a collection of balls of yarn in it. And I liked the subject matter and I liked the color. And so from there, I looked through images, I found images relating to this. So this ball of yarn, these 3 images that are possibly wooden boxes or drawers with the various yarns in them, all nicely separated by color. And then this swatch of knitting. And this little piece of collage, I ripped it and pulled it apart a little bit, and I like to do that from time to time. And I had this wonderful image of these 2 sheep. And of course the sheep relate to the yarn because originally anyway, before we had acrylic and all that stuff, most of our yarn was wool. So, and then having found the image of the sheep, I looked in my old dictionaries and found something from that made a nice addition. What else can I say? Well, I want to get to this, but I have some writing on it. Thank you, sheep. Thank you for all you do. Without you, what would we be? You are special. Thank you. Without you, we would be cold. And then I signed it and dated it with the year. But back to the sheep. So I kind of got this idea, I don't know where it came from, that I wanted to put them in a house. And, you know, maybe it came from the fact that the background for the sheep is very dark, so it's like they're inside something. So I went through more images that I had, looking for images that I could cut and build a barn for my sheep with. So browns, maybe some linear designs that would look like wood, like building materials, and created a home for them. And I'm really happy with that. So I also added some line work with pen. The white dots, the swirling lines, those are with a white Posca pen, which is a paint pen. And then the black is, I think, a Statler pigment pen that's waterproof. And I urge you, if you're going to be using pen and collage, to determine whether or not it's waterproof, because that's going to tell you whether you can put something over it or whether you have to save your pen work to the very end. And then I think, okay, so the other thing to talk about is the color scheme. Well, the background is mostly paint, and then the collage in this central area. And the paint, the colors are are repeats of the colors in this original image with some additions. So since the original image is made up of primarily warm colors, I wanted to have some cool colors in the project as well, so that it would be more interesting, because contrast creates interest in your piece. So I added blues, and I see also I added some lavender, which is between blue and the warm red on the color wheel. And then these little bits of a very pale grass green. At first glance, they don't seem to fit, but there's a transition from the green, the pale grass green, through the turquoise with this mid color in between. So I think it fits nicely, more contrast, and just the interest of the little snippings. And the button, love buttons. This one I ran some embroidery thread through and just glued it on, and of course the heart is very symbolic. And just as this brighter red did not tend to fit, just like this green did not tend to fit, it actually goes through a transition: the red, the maroon, the brown, the lavender. I love the colors in this. They're unusual for me, but it's really helpful to have a beautiful image that you're starting with that gives you guidelines on where to go with color. This one, the background is masa paper, and masa paper gives you quite a bit of opportunities to do really nice, interesting textures. And I've started work on a series of short videos, or some of them short, some of them a little longer, about mixed media techniques that I've used in art journaling, and there will be a video on using masa paper. Typically I use masa paper with watercolor and then fix it, and then I can go from there with collage and so on, without disturbing the watercolor underneath. Our frog, this is Frog Princess, Book of Fairies, and the frog I drew on a separate piece of paper and painted on that separate piece of paper, then cut it out and collaged it on. The wings are painted onto the background. There's also some collage here of a textured rice paper and some glass beads that, if you have something with texture and then you just lightly coat your finger with paint, you can lightly skim over it and the paint will stick on the texture that's sticking up above the page. So that's fun to do. These flowers are collaged on from an image that I cut from somewhere, I don't know where. And then the unusual thing is this little book that's part of the page. So it's actually, the cover is the masa paper. It has a bit of the same type of image that I used over here, collaged on, and these little wings, Book of Fairies. And then inside, I've written on some of the pages. The pages are different from each other. I haven't written on all of them yet. But this first one, I wrote it on the computer, chose a font that I liked, printed it out on the inkjet printer, fixed it with spray fixative, and then I could glue it onto the page. The closure is a button that's sewn onto the page, but then covered up with this that's glued on, and then a cord coming from behind the back cover allows me to close it. So Book of Fairies, and the text says, a compendium of legendary, historical, and contemporary lore beginning with Phoebe, the Frog Princess. So a little bit about the color. The color scheme is an analogous color scheme, which means you start somewhere on the color wheel and you pick colors that are next to each other. So you've got purple, blue, and green. And then the contrasting color here is the yellow. Yellow is the complement of the purple, so that helps bring a little life to it. The green frog is glued over the green part of the masa paper. And I don't know if that's something I would ordinarily do because it maybe challenges the ability to separate the background from the image. But I think this worked well, and I think it's because of partly because of the strong value contrast in the frog. And the whole darker value of this part draws your eye over here. So much for the Book of Fairies. Oh, and I used that gold pen on this one as well. There's line work, vines around here. There's centers in the flowers. There's stuff around the little flower crown on her head. Okay, so Book of Fairies masa paper. Pretty colors. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is our Corgi Fairy. So this one was inspired by this tiny little image, probably no more than 1.5 inches high, of a corgi, which I think I must have gotten from a catalog of dog brushes, toys, beds, and so on. I just love the corgi, so I kept it, ran across it, and decided to use it as the inspiration for a spread. So I knew I was going to use this. Or I didn't know I was going to use this. I knew I was going to use it somehow. So I started with collage with the colors inspired from the warm browns of her coat, the brown part of her coat. So I just did collage and decided, I think fairly early on, that I was going to make a big corgi over here. So behind where the corgi was going to go, I kept it mostly not collage, just paint of, not just plain old painted area, but less contrast behind her than in this other area, so that I could draw her. So once I was done with most of the background, the collage and the paint behind her, I drew her with pencil right here where she's sitting, and then painted inside the pencil area with gesso. The gesso allows some of the collage that was underneath this text to show through, and I really like that. I think that it adds visual texture, but it's not distracting. So I painted her, and then I'm not sure where these little ducks came in or why they did, but there they are. And then I decided I wanted to put the corgi herself in here. So she's so small, but I helped bring her out by putting a frame behind her. And this is a layered frame, more than just one frame. So I started with an old book page that I ripped the edges of and inked the edges to make them a little darker. And then I put a kind of a pale layer of gesso over the center of it so that I could write on it. And then I had this stamp, a really pretty stamp that is a stamp of a frame. Put that on, wrote what I wanted to write, and put her in place. So the color scheme, I guess, well, clearly mostly warm and centered on reds. And so to add that contrast, I crossed the color wheel to green, went a little to the side for this sea green, and used it. And she has wings. They're very subtle. They're painted in white, just line work, kind of thick line work, and then I went around the edges of the white with this gold pen that I like so much. And I think that's about all I need to say about this one. Well, one more thing. There is text here. But it doesn't, I can't read it because it's all covered with paint and so on, but I don't know that it relates to the corgi, and it doesn't matter. Let's see, what does this say? My heart is in the forest, spreading my wings, and being fey, being a fairy, and it says the same thing down here. Okay, so, and the bees are in the forest with her. Those are just stamps. So, that's it for the first 4 spreads, and as I did more and more work in my art journals, I began to collect more and more things, like more and more stamps and pens and so on. And I guess I should say that these little globs are, where's some more? Here. Those are alcohol ink, which I love to use also. So that's, oh, one more thing. So these shapes, you just take a clipping, draw a circle, put points on the inside of the circle, and then cut out a star. And these 3 are centered on parts of a cutout image that are carved onto a chest front. So, you know, once you do this stuff, just like everything you see has different uses. It's very exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this, and that it was useful for you. And I look forward to seeing you next time, which hopefully should be no more than 2 weeks from now. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for watching.